Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of VNture Podcast. We're coming up around the end of the year, and it's time for us hosts, Taros113 and MR, to look back on a whole year of visual novel enjoyment. What did 2023 bring to us? And today we're going to share our final parting thoughts about all sorts of things we've read in a very interesting new dynamic, live streamed for your enjoyment at the time. Anyways. MR, why don't you describe what we've got set up for all the viewers?
Yeah, we wanted to try something new. Here is so all new, so we went with alignment chart. Because when it comes to reminiscing of the past year, what better it is to introduce a new axis, new dimension. Whether or not those were memorable experiences, or maybe something I already forgot. And we'll be ranking on this alignment chart titles we've read past year on the scale of memorable to forgettable and on the scale of bad to good. Whoa. So, let's start as the year started with January. And I had a blast when it comes to starting this year because I was ending on a high note from the previous year because it was a Baldur's Sky. So let me find this.
Baldur's Sky.
Yeah.
Nice.
So where do I put it?
Tell me.
This is a title that resonated with me on many different levels. I feel like on a lot of areas it tried to be super immersive. From the UI, from the choices, and from this, in my opinion, very well executed feedback loop from the gameplay to the story, from the story to the gameplay. Very well done. So it is definitely a title that goes directly into Emmer's iceberg. It was that great. So it would be somewhere around here. Yeah, I vividly remember all the routes, all the endings. That was
So
an incredible experience. Yeah.
You've got it rated pretty high on the good scale and a little bit memorable.
Yeah. It just because
Okay.
I need to prepare the full scale. I'll use it well, and
Well,
I think
if you just pick whatever you like for them. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff.
If you remember, when I talked briefly with, I think it was August, and I think also Ant, when they were on the podcast, and they briefly mentioned that they experienced Baldur's Sky. Both of them said that there are some inconsistencies with pacing. And yeah, while I can't concur to that with story, but I'll definitely say some fights or segments were grander than they needed to be and prolonged what you wanted to see next. So, not the maximum memorable, maybe just slightly like,
If anything, that'd be a little memorable in the long way. In the wrong way, I mean, sorry.
Exactly, but I feel this is good place. If there will be some readjustment, I'll do that later. But so far, for now, this looks this looks pretty good.
Okay.
So
but all in all, you give it a glowing review.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. This is definitely MRS 10. So yeah.
All right.
So that was my January, and I already need to contrast it because when it comes to February, I had to double check on my list. Did I really read it? I completely spaced that from my memory. So on the complete opposite spectrum from this line, I read Nyan Cafe Machinato. So it's like already on the bottom of the forgettable, but I can't say it was super ultra bad. It was like somewhere here. but I already forgot about this title.
That's not good. That's on the bad side of things.
Yeah, it's not super bad, but it's no. The mere fact that I had to double check. Wait, really? I read it. Oh my god.
Well, do you remember what it was about?
Yeah.
Anyone listening here?
Yeah. I remember it was about unlucky protagonist taking that idea to extreme. Whenever he tried something, he was super and over the top unlucky with it. And probably the best event is when one of the heroines were describing why did they like the product is that how can I say it? That feeling when someone pities you, you were so unlucky by trying to rescue her that you were accused of being the perpetrator. Oh my god, that was actually very comedic, but that's the only thing I remember from the title. Yeah, you are a sensei running a restaurant, side business.
Mm-hmm.
Hijink and zero, that's it.
And you are apparently such a downer, pathetic kind of main character where they're just straight up taking pity on you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Someone was
interesting.
Grope on a train or something
approach.
like that. You try to defend her, but you get accused instead, like something like that. What?
Oh, we got the perv comedy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. But you stuck with it, so congratulations. Here you are.
Yeah, somehow.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what made me stuck with this title. Half of the cast I don't even really like. I remember actively like cringing.
Like, no offense, for these sorts of cutesy waifu things, you kind of have to, like them, or at least think they're pretty nice characters, or at some level, even if it's surface level. Like, come on.
No.
That's rough.
No, I'm like, yeah, no. Not this one. Oh my god. So,
boy.
Yeah, please don't make me remember more of it. So that's where I put it for now. Maybe you know what? No. Slightly to the left. Now that I said everything like that.
Okay, thanks. Well, if that's it from you, then we'll move on with this. Yeah. I read a certain title in the month of February called Selene Apoptosis, which was an OELVN indie horror title. Yeah. And this one's difficult to put down. On the one hand, it was pretty memorable. So that's a good thing, except it wasn't memorable for having a great story or characters or whatever. It was the atmosphere that was great. In a good way. It was very scary. It used all sorts of little aspects, like dimming down the darkness to having the music be just ever present a little in the background. The sudden snaps to the, everything's fine and happy, and then suddenly, oh no, there's terror in the air. So it was memorable. I put it about halfway up there. But in terms of being good or bad, the story, like I said, the story was kind of a mess. You had the main character who's a struggling author, and then a cat shows up on his doorstep. But it's a cat girl. But, visually, you see a cat girl, but the script always keeps treating it as just a normal cat animal. And again, it's one of those little disconnects that make the atmosphere feel so unnerving when you have a very clear difference between the two. But it just made things messy. And then there were other characters who were kind of related to this, but then it focused on them. And then the endings made no sense in any regard. I kind of can't say it was good. It's probably a little bit onto the bad side.
Okay, just like a smidge. Okay.
More than a smidge. Keep going, buddy. There you go. That's probably better.
Okay.
Because overall, like if you look at it as a visual novel from the whole literary aspects, there's a lot of foundational aspects of telling a story. It completely misses the mark. But it's nice reading it
Hey.
while you're there. Yeah, I guess it's one of those where it's better as an experience than as a novel.
Yeah, I mean, that entire atmosphere building is something definitely I would say contributes to a memorable experience, right? Like you described,
Yeah.
it's something that is unique, very much
Oh, yeah.
so. But like if the story just falls apart, it's like okay, it's the atmosphere I remember, not the story going places.
Of course. Visuals were very pretty too, so
Okay.
give him props for that. But yeah, that's where I'd leave it. It was nice and it was cool, but we're moving on.
Yeah, and where are we arriving? Oh my god. Okay, I need to go from another extreme to another extreme. Because March was the month which I just said no. I abandon every other thing I'm doing because Rance is out, okay? This is high priority.
Rance?
Yeah, Rance 9.
Which Rance? Rance 9 came out earlier this year?
Yeah,
Oh, cool. That somehow slipped my radar.
so that was all hands of deck situation. Everything goes everything that wasn't in the backlog goes to the backlog. Rance gets priority. Goodbye. And I disappear. Yeah, that was a title. And definitely it's maxed out of memorable immediately. Just because.
Oh, well, that's you speaking. That's your MR.
Yeah, but just because for Rance 9, when I finished that title, one of my friends had a birthday and I drove to him just to spend his entire birthday talking about this title. Yeah, and this is a memory we'll share now.
Your friend was a Rance fan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but if he weren't, I would
What a
convert
story
him.
that would be. He would be like, hey, it's his birthday and I'm going to drive over to hang out.
Yeah.
Now listen to me
Listen
about
to me.
Rance.
Exactly.
Your
No.
poor guy trapped in the corner, cowering as you
What is
just
he?
go off on him.
It's 9 hours. Can he stop? That would be a story, but no.
All right. But yeah, so it was very memorable.
Definitely for that experience, obviously. But if I speak about the title itself, still, I feel like it built the world in such a way. Again, when it comes to runs and the grand story, it tends to flip-flop between a direction of adventure and overall exploration of a world. And this time, in the title even, it says that it's a Helmanian crusade. It's a revolution. And we go to that country and finally we can visit the last country that wasn't explored for the longest time in this mythos. And it was quite the experience seeing how runs act as a revolutionary. And when we had a report, I think it was April or March, I said how they portray his rashness and decisiveness as one of the most contributing factors to the victory, because he's so impatient, he just doesn't deal with carefully laid plans with risk mitigations. He says, 3 years, I give you 2 weeks. We are going there now. But by sheer coincidence, because they rushed the entire war effort, yeah, they managed to catch everybody off guard. No one was prepared for that. And that's a hilarious way to use comedy of someone who is so absurd in his ways, but that quality transfer over success. Yeah, all the military, all the government of that country was prepared for dragged out conflict that will take years to resolve. But he's like, no, we go now to capital, go. I have places to be, okay? You get 2 weeks. What? And his unreasonableness actually bore fruit here. So yeah, it was definitely a good story and a memorable one at that.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah, and continuing on trend, because I tend to avoid untranslated titles or the ones that haven't been picked up by official translation. And it just so happens in the entire series of runs, for some reason, 4 is abandoned. Number 4. But just because it's so important to the events of 9, I said, you know what? I'm going to find the game and play it. Because Runs 4 is abandonware. And they got endorsed by the official creators. Yeah, you can just go and read it.
Oh, okay.
And with the fun translation, yeah, everything is translated. So let me find it.
Well, it's not untranslated. It's VNture.
Yeah, it's fun translation.
Okay.
But it has no official translation. That's what I meant.
Sure.
And it's so weird going back to that old art style of when was it made? 1990? Something like that. Super whack. The UI is so not intuitive at all. Oh, it was an experience, okay?
God, yeah.
And remember, Runs is very famous for having gameplay in it. It's a VN that has a lot of gameplay and it keeps switching in between titles. And it just so happens that it was a dungeon explorationist 4. But sadly, it suffered from the early game design of where the hell do I go kind of games. So it was memorable, but not necessarily in a good way, because holy hell, this game is unplayable without a guide, in my opinion.
Yep, that's classic video game experience for you.
Oh my freaking god.
It was a dungeon explorer, right?
Yeah.
Were you expected to pencil and paper the maps yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. That was something else.
Gross.
Yeah, and there was so much repetition of go back to base, repeat those 10 or 12 steps again to go back and progress the story, because for some reason you had to go back for a scroll of paper and you couldn't do that before. Oh, Jesus, it was so fucking annoying on so many levels.
Okay. So I'm assuming you thought it was kind of bad,
But the story was actually good. I feel like when it comes to bad good, I would put it like, and it was memorable, definitely. You know what? No, that's unfair. I feel like the story was actually really hilarious because it was very comedic. It was memorable, not necessarily for good reasons.
But you're going to slide it over to the good side?
Yes, because ultimately, when it comes to world building, when it comes to lore, it achieved a lot. And again, like I said, it ties into
there
9.
We go. Yeah, there's the MR key to
exactly. I finally understood what
just
was so important.
10 pages of world history.
Exactly.
And you will be enthralled.
I mean, you were exploring ancient ruins of a forgotten civilization that plays a role in 9 to some degree, right? But here you are the explorers, the League of Explorers, and your rival country, because obviously there's a second country that tries to rob that side of its artifact, is actually the Hellman, the guys from 9. So this is the first time Runs meets Hellmanians. Okay, fine. So for that I give it some points, but don't worry. So shortly after that, there are some bonus stories for 4. Let me just put it something. Okay. Because it's just like complete farce.
Oh, you're also gonna put the bonus story stuff on this list. Okay, Amar.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
4.1 is built on completely different engine. It looks completely different. It's drawn by completely different artists. And it's written by a completely different scenario writer.
This doesn't sound like Runs 4 at all.
Yeah, but the title is Runs 4.1. It continues the story from, oh yeah, you left the expedition, here you have a fetch quest. This is basically 4.1. One giant freaking fetch quest. Similar to 4.2, because this is the continuation for 1, but it's a bit better. Like, next to each other. This is the
that makes sense.
This is the definition of a fetch quest. You, for some reason, you were visiting ancient civilization. You were investigating old, very ancient relics that are super important. But here it's like, yeah, we need medicine. And this is the pharmaceutical company that produces it. Go.
So get running.
Okay.
That's what you've been reduced to. You're an errand boy.
Exactly. Like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, well.
And that ended the march.
Because I have something called a little VN. Arguably, if it's called a VN or not, but I think it is. It's called Hope Left Me.
Uh-huh.
It's it's honestly a little pet project of a synthwave band out there called Astrophysics.
Okay.
And that's obviously its greatest strength. They did the music for it, and it is perfect in setting the atmosphere and the mood. The VN takes place... It's very difficult to say. It's some sort of apocalyptic scenario, but not really. And there's a mysterious girl who helps you out, but is she really? And where are you? And what's going on? Those are kind of the big picture questions that get pushed off to the side to instead examine main character's strange feelings and how she interacts with the other, main character. Okay. Like I said, it's very atmospheric. You've got the synthwave background music. It has a VHS filter the whole time if you enable it, which just adds to the aesthetics. It's all in monochrome, except for 2 splashes of color on each of the main characters to make them distinctive out of the whole scenery. It's pretty short. It's only like an hour or so long, but it's very enjoyable. And if anything, you get to listen to the music, which is the real win here.
Okay.
Like I said, it's the sort of thing, it feels like a passion project, just something really cool that the band wanted to do and that they got to put themselves out there a little. I respect that.
Yeah.
I would say it's very memorable because, I've got the good vibes from it. Whether it's good or bad, very subjective. I'd honestly leave it halfway on the axis.
Okay, that's fine.
It's very difficult to grade it on normal visual novel criteria,
it's too eccentric. Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's one of those beauty is in the eye of the beholders.
I see. Okay.
Yep, I'll leave it at that. It was fun to read, for me personally. I enjoyed it.
Okay. Speaking of enjoying, different kind of read, we go into April, and specifically April's Fool. Oh boy, and what a title it was. Sonic. It was the month of Sonic, right?
Yes. Not just Sonic. We're talking about the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
First off, what do you think about it, MR?
Okay, like I said, it passes the good mystery check. Because the overall murder mystery that was presented here was solvable. And it had a decent amount of clues, gathering information, deduction. Freaking hell, that was really cool. I specifically said on the report that we talk about this title, I like the subversion of a trope of planning. Whereas a lot of the times when you as a reader hear plans before they happen, they fail. And if you enact a plan that the team prepared beforehand, you don't hear about it because you want to see it in action. That's a typical way the storyteller tells the story. When the plan
when the main characters are planning a story and they huddle up and keep it a secret from the audience.
Yes.
The audience finds out how it unfolds as it happens.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. But here, you were part of the planning phase. And after you finish the planning, what happens is like they said, oh yeah, that's how it happened. Like, what? Like, wait, that's actually a really clever subversion of that trope. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
well, it was more played for laughs. It was a
Yeah.
comedy segment, but
Still, but
okay.
I really enjoyed that.
I very much enjoyed the writing and the dialogue. I thought all of the characters were very. They played to their strengths. Even if you weren't a Sonic fan and you were walking in blind to this cast, you
Yeah.
very quickly got the vibes of all the characters. And the way they bounced off each other was fantastic.
Exactly. As a non-Sonic fan, I can attest to that.
Aha. It was good. I liked it. I think it was a little bit forgettable, though. A lot of the finer details have kind of washed away.
You think
Just
like
the important
something
part
like
was
this?
a little more on the good scale. It was a lot more good than it was bad, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. True.
Yeah.
Something like
Put
that.
it down a little. Yeah, I'd be happy putting it there. What do you think, Kamar?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you are correct that some of the chapter... no, I wouldn't remember right now completely.
Yeah, they were good,
Yeah.
good detective moments and funny aspects and great art and stuff. It's just, it doesn't really stick in your mind years later.
Fair enough. Exactly. Fair enough. Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Next on my list is Hello Lady. Shortly after murder, Sonic has been murdered. I started reading Hello Lady. Oh wait, where do I even put this title? This is a revenge story, but honestly, some of the routes were like, I'll be honestly putting somewhere like here, to be honest. I kind of liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the murder mystery, and some of the routes were pretty cool. I feel like Cup, okay, because it dealt with superpowers in a high school with a protagonist who is a transfer student, and obviously they are. It's anime, okay? But they have a hidden agenda, and that being a revenge story. Okay, but a lot of that plot was either or kind of predictable, like, okay, that's their motives, I sleep. Kind of deal. I'm sorry, but that was my final conclusion. But at the very least, some of the characters were absolutely amazing, and their banter with protagonists was hilarious. So I give them points for that. And ultimately, it wasn't that bad, even if some points were like, snoozer. Yeah, so I kinda like this corner.
Okay.
And it was quite pretty, to be honest, with CGs being pretty nicely drawn.
I feel like that's the safe area where it's on the good side and then it's on the more forgettable side. The part where, it plays it safe and it doesn't do anything inoffensive to, really tick you off. But it's still good enough to where you won't complain, right?
Yep, exactly. And I need to move on to the next one because it ties in so well with what you just said, because it ties maybe too much of that safe way, because now we talk about the Alchemist of Ars Magna, which I completely forgot I read. Because, okay, it was good in the moment, some of the times, it was bad in the moment, some of the times, but ultimately, it's maximum forgettableness. I'm sorry. And
okay,
it had two endings. One of the endings was super ultra bland, that would steer it towards the bad, but the other was satisfying conclusion to the journey, which steers it back to the good. I think ultimately it's in the absolute middle, but completely forgettable. It's so weird.
Okay.
But that's true. In the moment, a lot of the aspect of, we are in the fantasy world that is on brink of destruction, we face the cataclysm that is caused by pollution, and we, as an environmentalists, mages, needs to cleanse the world. But it's just like so boring a lot of the time and so forgettable.
Because I remember you constantly talking about it, saying how it's a cool premise and going on about all the choices and the
Yeah,
routes and how it plays out story. And now you're telling me it's all the way on the forgettable side of things?
yeah, because maybe in the moment those were cool aspects, but retrospectively, there's only so many times you can do the same rescue mission against a local deity of element of water, element of air, element of fire, element of earth, element of darkness, element of light. Every single time you need to unpollute them in the same way. Okay. And like I said before, the ultimate conclusion of two endings is somewhat in line with how Dual Tale likes to address a global crisis and situation. It just so one is so much better executed than the other. I even told you. I went, no way. That's not an ending. Oh, no. I go to the guide, and the guide itself, a walkthrough, says, yes, that's it. On the bad ending or the chaos ending.
Jeez, okay.
Like, wow, okay. It kind of ended abruptly and like, that's it. Bye. Like, what? It had some cool moments.
That is a shame.
And cool characters, but I'm sad to say not necessarily much over than that.
Ah, darn.
But on the flip side of that,
What month was that?
I think it was June.
Or if you should
June.
just pick one.
June. I think it was June, around June. Because it was shortly after the Hello Lady, which was in April, and I ended Alchemist of Half Magna around June or July.
Well, you're skipping over me, buddy.
Okay, fine. Okay.
I had something in May, although that was when I wrapped up Qualia, which is a romance VN.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of romance. I picked it up on a whim because I saw someone, an acquaintance, I guess, recommended it in general. And I thought, you know what? I haven't taken a recommendation in a while. I might as well give this a shot. And I am sorry to report it's all the way on the forgettable scale.
Oh, God.
It is very much a normal, happy slice of life moege sort of thing. Which is crazy because the main heroine is an android.
Yeah.
She is machine. And I thought that would really play into things, being like, oh, the machine and the researcher and this forbidden love, and it's not supposed to happen, and the feelings play out. I thought there would be more, plot-focused, big philosophical, rationales behind this,
I mean, given the title, Qualia is a concept in philosophy about conscience, right?
Exactly. And yet, what it turned out to was a whole lot of daily, normal living life, watching TV, going grocery shopping, and then they go out on dates to the beach, and it's all lovey-dovey. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, I am bored out of my mind.
Oh my God.
Like, it's no disrespect to Qualia, and I'm sure there's many visual novel fans who would eat that stuff up. To me, it was, oh man, put it way off into the bad side.
Oh God.
Keep going, buddy. Keep going. Keep going. There you go.
Oh God.
It was very forgettable. There was just a lot of it was just the most blandest slice of life daily living, and I was not enjoying any of it.
You know what? You describe it in such a way. Let me just read just one thing.
What do you do? Oh my God. Okay.
I think it's a lot of what you're saying applies to Nyan Cafe as well.
Reading Qualia confirmed that I do not like pure romance stories. I don't mind romance if it's like an aspect of another story, like there's the whole love interest angle going on. Like, I'm fine with that. I got nothing against romance. It's just the entire thing about the sappy, will he or won't he sort of nonsense. I can't do that.
Yeah. I understand you, okay? I understand. You know what? You convinced me.
So that's, oh my MR, stop changing your stuff.
I'm catching up to you, okay?
Okay, whatever, man. Whatever. But that's what I thought about Qualia. That was my VN reading.
That's sad because I actually like stories about androids and how that would tie in, but
Yeah,
the moment you
same.
described to me a story about the most sappy, lovey-dovey love with robots, I'm like, really? That's no. Okay.
It had potential in a few places, and it didn't. Didn't do anything.
Uh,
Ugh.
okay. So back to June. Yeah, around June, I finished Cabaret.
Hmm.
That was an English original visual novel that was very unusual because it took me as a surprise. It took inspiration from Middle Eastern culture with a unique folklore to explore, using a lot of fantastic creatures, genes, and a lot of creatures I just can't remember, can't pronounce the names of, but I remember that
Oh
those were
man.
super cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this game was something else. Now, funnily enough, on the scale of memorable to forgettable, it's very hard to pick either way because it had memorable moments, but played some of them very safe-ish, and it had so much different characters that it kind of blend at some point. So I'm kind of content with having it on the middle of forgettable, memorable. But the story was really, really unique. I'm going to put it like here, around Sonic. Very unique.
Okay.
Very unexplored ground with something that is so out of the typical dragons or from Western culture or yokai from Japan. Completely different. Super atmospheric. And funny enough, on personal note, some of the techniques how to approach brewing tea, yeah, I learned from this title and I apply it in real life now. Okay, fine. Brewing to this. Okay, preparing that. Maybe not with the fantastical ingredients that they had, like human bones or something. Not this.
The ritual side
Yeah.
of brewing tea.
not maybe not that.
Ooh, I don't know.
But kind of how to approach brewing tea, how to leave it on fire. Like, nice. Yeah, that was really cool. Very atmospheric.
All right.
Okay, what's next? Next on my agenda, it was around August. That was August when I started the big series of 9-9. Oh boy.
Ooh. Yeah, that's going to be quite the beast to get your teeth into, huh?
Yeah, because this all starts with this title. And everybody, I have to
Episode 1, right?
Yeah, this is the number one, the first title.
Just so you're clear.
Yeah, this is the first episode. And a lot of people agree that it is slow. It doesn't have... It has a cool premise and a hook, but it doesn't do much with it. It doesn't keep up the pace. Even by the end of it, it's not that interesting when they go with that, right? So I would say it is, on the good side, somewhat forgettable. So like, I will put it like here. Okay. Like less forgettable than Hello Lady. No, the reverse. Less forgettable, but maybe less good than Hello Lady. Right?
Yeah. Because you just said, it's not so much that it's forgettable. It's just that the series, episode 1 doesn't really do much with what it's given, right?
And funny enough, I think with my placement, you can see how it evolves throughout episodes, right? Because after this one...
got this all mapped out already?
Yeah, huh? I think more or less. So, because this is the second part. And how they do episodic thing is they found a central point. And again, I'm not saying common route for a reason, but they found a central point of a story that diverges to different heroines. That's why every single poster has a different main character from it. And the second episode is focus about this character, and the way they utilize story is so much better than this one. It just skyrockets when it comes to memorable moments, plenty. So it's like goes up and maybe a little bit to the right.
Okay.
So it expands on the intrigue, And just to recap from that report, it's a murder mystery with using loosely defined rules about people having inherited superpowers from items, objects, or some amulets of sorts they all have. And the biggest criticism when it comes to whether or not it's good mystery, so is it solvable, right, is very early on they made it super clear. There is no limit. You can have as little as one ability or none, or as much as 10 or even higher. And that makes it super hard to predict, because for every solution you think of, you can also say, oh wait, but he could have a, or she could have a power to counteract that. So that was kind of, doesn't blend really well for the deduction aspect of it. But I feel like, despite of that, they had such a good hook of how to utilize those powers and what was going on, that I think they created a lot of memorable moments. Especially the ending was super cool in this title. Still, it pales in comparison with the third entry, which takes that entire concept and it's like, okay, listen, hold my beer, I show it how it's done. And they go to the good side. A lot.
Oh.
Right?
Sizably up in the good side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because
memorable.
Yeah, exactly. Somewhat on the same level as a second entry, but they crank up the intensity. And the way they do it is not any kind of Aspul, which Hello Lady had a lot of Aspul of that kind, superpowers, Aspuls. No, they did it really tastefully here with 9-9. So
they had tasteful Aspuls.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Okay.
Yeah, but in a way, when it comes to mystery about solving crimes or what has happened, and again, I'm not divulging too much into spoilers, right? For those who feel like it's intriguing, I recommend. It's a really good series. They kinda always find themselves in a corner, because the more complex, superpowered villains you solve, the next iteration of a problem has to be even more powerful, even more so. Yet, despite of that, I feel like what they achieve in 4 is just amazing. They go crazy hard with memorable scenes. I remember vividly to this day. Just amazingly, I sit on the chair, shaking. What is happening next scene? Those were like super intense scene at the edge of my seat. Great conclusion to story and great climax for the 4.
Yeah, and I was about to say, this one, episode 4, is the conclusion of the main series, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is the finale. Again, it's super weird because each of those entries is dedicated to a different heroine that has an ending in it. Again, I'm not saying how they achieve that. It's spoilerific to some degree.
Yes.
But this one is just like, oof. Super cool. Now, after all of that, we have a fan disc.
Because of course.
Of course.
You can't you've got this awesome series here. You can't just end it like that when there's money left on the table.
Yeah. But I do appreciate one thing, because they answer a lot of threads abandoned by the early episode, like episode 1. So any kind of plot holes that weren't addressed along the way of those super intensive moments are concluded here by showing different perspective of different people. So I actually appreciate that for it. I don't think it's nearly as memorable as those two. So I would say it's like, yeah, it is definitely on the lower intensity, because it takes place way after everything is concluded. the main solution have been reached. This is an after story. Appropriately so. So yeah, ultimately,
Okay.
I'm a big fan. 9-9, more like 10-10 to me, okay?
Okay. And yeah, so obviously you hadn't been reading this as it was episodically being released, right? You've come into this once the whole series has been finished, and you could take it at your own pace,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
I just
There is always that factor, it's
yeah,
always a little bit scary to read
yes,
an
exactly,
episodic VN as it's being released. Ooh.
exactly. I'm like, I've been burned in the past. I'm waiting for everything. I have patience. I'm waiting for
Oh,
entire series to come out.
same here.
But it was
Because I don't want to hear that it's got a bad ending.
oh no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Oh no. Oh my god. If 4 was a bad end, oh my god, it would go so to the left. You have no idea. It probably dragged 3 with it. Okay.
Oh god. See, that's the worst when there's a bad ending and it just retroactively makes the other episodes
Exactly.
you like look so much worse.
Yeah.
It makes it look dumb.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Oh my god.
can't do that, man. Give me just the total story in one go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What else have you read? Because, spoiler for me, I was away from VNs for a bit on the back half of this year.
After the emotional roller coaster that was 9-9, I'm prepping myself because after that I read Venus Blood Gaia.
Oh, very different tone, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. But how to rate it completely? Because I had a lot of issues with it, especially with story that didn't really grip me all that much as previous entries. And maybe to some degree it is a fault of Ars Magna, because Venus Blood Gaia also goes for the welcome to this new fantasy world. Oh, by the way, it's dying because of the environmental reasons. So have fun. But some of those characters, man, I love some of those characters. I can't say it's bad. Like, okay, now it might be actually forgettable in a lot of aspects of the story, like something like this. It's not that forgettable, and some of the arcs are amazing, but I would say this is the place. It's good, amazing characters, amazing feedback loop of gameplay to story. I love it, how they executed that, and some of that has to be attributed by the fact that you are the commander of an army and you train your own troops. Those are your guys, your boys, and look at them go. They are so good. This is cool aspect of Venus, but every time, yeah, this is my army. I created them. They're my boys. Okay.
Now, usually in these sorts of, turn-based strategy, tactical sort of games, like all of them, you build up a sort of army and you get your units and you fight. What made it different for Gaia instead?
I feel like there are 2 aspects of that fact. One fact is you have a lot of customization in which, how can I say it? You are rewarded by sticking to that one trusty squad you want and making them as powerful as they can be, as well as exploring other options whenever they are available. And the second part, systematically in Venus Blood, in each entry they try to incorporate some minor army characters into the story itself. And this is no exception, since this title focuses on technological city. That's the protagonist's country. You are the technomancer, basically. A lot of scholar-like units just talk with you. Yeah, they discuss some wild theories, or conserving matter, or conducting electricity. Yeah, that's hilarious. Some of how they are passionate, and how some of them exhibit that mad scientist or energy. Yeah, I love it. It gives them personality, I have to say.
Yes, a little personality goes a long way, especially with minor characters.
Exactly. Yep. They barely have
You got
any text to speak of or lines, and here you inject some personality. I'm like, yeah, I appreciate that.
Aw.
Oh boy. And next up on my list is it was around October when I ended Kamifuda. It's a VM that advertised itself heavily for incorporate card games into the gameplay.
So, more gameplay VNs out of you.
Yeah. But the way they had a feedback loop and they tied the card story was super unique. I really liked it. Studied the story, dragged it somewhere here.
Was the story bad in any way, or was it just it failed to do anything?
I think it's even worse than bad. Story was just so forgettable. I mean, sorry, not forgettable is the wrong word. Generic is the word. I have to say. Since they went with the atmosphere of blend between Harry Potter-esque School of Magic and Arkham mysteries and rituals.
Yeah, Lovecraftian.
Lovecraftian. Oh, thank you, Lovecraftian. That blend was. They didn't do anything with that. I'll be honest. They went with the safest route every single time. From the mile away, you knew who was going to betray who. You knew how everything will end. You could predict everything. So on that note, it was so bogged down in a lot of aspects. Ugh. And that's sad because the way they did the card aspect was actually really interesting. And I remember vividly how it represents your ability to cast rituals. And other people had different attunement to different cards due to their affinity with other kinds of rituals. That was actually really nicely explained. But they went nowhere with that. Even they tried to inject a little bit of drama, like, someone died during rituals. Ooh. And everybody's like, okay. Life happens, okay, bye.
Oh, well, so who cares?
Yeah.
It wasn't anyone important.
Yeah, everybody loved the guy. Oh. See ya.
Oh well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
So even though, like you said, it did have the interesting premise, and generally you liked the gameplay, if I remember right?
Yep.
It's just, man, the story was that much of a, a poor showing on its front for you to rate it where it is.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah. I even made an experiment during the Steam sale. I recommended this title to a friend of mine who likes card games and likes VNs. And I got a feedback of, I ignored the story after a certain point. I'm like, been there, okay.
Did you warn him that the story was kind of meh?
No.
You didn't. No. You just said, oh, hey, here's something you might like, and you're like, haha, sucker, got him.
That was not my intention. That was not my intention. The intention was to see if he will reach the same conclusion. And I know he likes VNs and card games, so he'll try it. And he said, yeah, that's a cool card game. Yeah, but what about the story? What story? I'm like, okay. Okay.
Oh. But so right now you've put Kamifuda more on the memorable part?
Yeah, because the gameplay part was, all right.
Oh.
Very memorable.
Okay.
But the story was kind of bad.
I see. That's what you mean by it. Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. On that note, though, I'll talk to you about a gameplay VN I've read. What about that?
Yeah.
In fact, it's kind of so much gameplay, I have doubts as to whether it's really a visual novel.
Okay.
Because if anyone's familiar with Danganronpa, you'll understand what I mean when I mentioned that I read Master Detective Archives Rain Code.
Oh,
It is a mouthful of a title. It's very clearly inspired from Danganronpa, and actually more than inspired. It's a lot of the same staff members who worked on Danganronpa are on this as well, so it's more like a spiritual successor, to be honest. It takes place in a new setting, somewhat more open when you have a whole city to work with as the main character as a detective, and it has supernatural elements as part of it too. But at its core, you're still going into wacky mini games to do logic puzzles to determine, how a murder mystery unfolded. And there are still plenty of times where you wish you could just say yes or no or fill in the answer to a question, but instead you have to play some kind of minecart branching pathway sort of deal. And overall, this is a very difficult question to ask myself. How memorable was it? Because it has a lot of style. It's got that, the 3D models with the very distinctive art style. You've got the jazz and music. You've got the zany mini games. All of these elements that in a vacuum would make this very noteworthy, but the problem is, it's a spiritual successor to Danganronpa. And for all the reasons that Danganronpa blew up the way it did back in the day, that's the same kind of train tracks that Raincoat is following. Although I can't really say it's superior to Danganronpa, it's more like it's still just as good, but not quite Danganronpa's heights. So that's the problem, where it's like, well, yeah, it's memorable, but when you compare it to the whole Danganronpa series and all that, how memorable is it really? And it's like, well, it kind of falls short.
So it kind of lives in the shadow of Danganronpa, right?
Exactly. And so when you have something living in the shadow, you kind of can't rate it on its own. By definition, it's in the shadow.
Yeah.
On that But, on the other hand, Raincoat has a few twists in it, being a mystery VN and all, that are absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
They're some of the funniest twists I've ever seen, in a good way. Like, in a story-appropriate way, and just for how blatant and just how in-your-face they were to me and my sensibilities, that I just freaking cracked up laughing. Or I just looked there like, I was gasped, like, oh my god, wait, you're not serious about this, right?
Okay.
Say psych right now. The sort of twists, some of them where I thought the devs were going to chicken out by the end of the chapter, and then I just keep going and like, oh my god, they were really serious about this.
Okay.
So on the other hand, I do have to jack it all the way up to the memorable end. All the way up. It's something. There are several cases that already I just rather forget about. But the high points that it does hit make it well worth it.
Okay, I see it.
And on the good to bad scale, I think I'd put it a little towards the good. Scoot it over a little more. Keep going, Amar. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, right about there.
All right.
I wouldn't say it's a bad VN by any means. It has bad parts, of course, yeah. But overall, it was good, and I enjoyed it, and its highs outweighed its lows.
Okay.
It's just, like I mentioned, it does have lows, and that sucks, and it is living in the shadow of Danganronpa. But it still has plenty of credit to its name, and the mysteries are fun. And at the end of the day, that's the important part.
Exactly.
It was one heck of a very unique ride.
But like you said, it's bogged down by the spiritual successor of what it is, right?
Very much. What's hilarious is that it kept several of Danganronpa's worst aspects too.
Whoa.
I'm like, I don't know why they're sticking to it. They've gotten criticisms from some stuff ever since the first game, which was like, when was it released? Oh, like a decade ago. And they kept doing it throughout the series. And they're still doing it here in Raincoat. I'm like, okay, you guys just are dedicated to some of this stuff, aren't you?
Well,
Who knows? They're the ones making money, not me. So I
okay,
guess they're doing
true.
something right.
So, I left the last title because I am currently still reading Amatsuzumi, although I did finish one route. And oh boy, what a title it is to rate. So I'll try to rate it for how I feel right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll keep potential in mind because otherwise it would go sadly this way. And I don't want it to go that way, to the left. Because the end I got is just like so sappy, so happy-go-lucky, so convenient in a lot of places. Okay, so until now, until the first ending I got. In the middle of that time, it's very hard to say. Let's call it a middle of common road before the ending. Game was super memorable, very high intense some moments, but I feel like one resolution just made it crash hard to me.
Wait, on the memorable and forgettable axis?
Like you had a good build-up, good, really cool moment, and then it's like, I'm sorry, but it felt like the game itself forgot about that moment. So it's like, for now, it's in the middle. I don't want to spoil it.
Interesting. Okay.
It's weird that way, but the way they do mystery around superpowers is actually very intriguing. Because I feel like a lot of times when you deal with mysteries and people with supernatural powers, the solution is often in the rules of engagement. In this case, in the superpower rules. And the puzzle of how to solve that was super. The title itself still tries to misdirect me that there is not a full solution. So I actually very intrigued. I keep reading. Sadly, the first ending I achieved was not satisfying, let's say it like that. It was... I want another ending. I refuse. I refuse that one. That was just too convenient, too... Nothing happened, nothing got resolved, and they lived happily ever after. Just no. I want to go to the bottom of it. What is behind all of the things that is happening, and they are very uncanny and unsettling in places. So for now, I'll pick it like this. It has some very memorable moments that they don't do much with, so it cancels out, but it leans still more on the good side for now. This is very early. It can change. I will report on it on the report, but so far, how I read, it's here-ish. And I leave it like that.
I hope this isn't... Yes, sorry. I hope this isn't one of those things where we get a recording immortalized for all time of 10 seconds before disaster.
Yeah, hopefully not. Because I really like the story.
No, I've heard good things. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. Hopefully you enjoyed at the end. And you'll have that to look forward to in the new year, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, I am always looking forward to the new year of all sorts of the new titles that we may see in the visual novel world, all sorts of new translated works, and another year closer in development for some other titles in production.
Exactly. Okay, with that being said, but I think this is time for us to end this one. Thank you, everybody, for listening in.
This has been one heck of a year in review, and hopefully you all enjoyed your year's worth of visual novels as well. And here's looking to next year altogether. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yep, and please tell us in the comment what was your VM that you remember fondly of the last year. With that, venture out.
Venture out.